Welcome back to another episode of Reaper Pro-Tips with me, your host and disembodied hands, Quindy, disembodied beard, John, and I don't know, the universe? Yeah, probably. How are y'all? I'll get great crested newt instead. You don't have salamanders. Oh, interesting. Hello, everybody. How's it going? How's your Friday? How's your Friday looking? Yeah, you can hug one in spirit. Otherwise, it would be a salamander sickle. And it would be wet, slimy, and cold. Oh no, Zachariah. Yes. Ah, party. Nice. Wow, you have a 4-year-old and a puppy? What possessed you? But yes, sounds cool. I thought when I saw their shadow it was 6 more weeks of winter. I thought they weren't going to see their shadows because it was been so cloudy and rainy, but I guess that's just us. And no hugs. No hugs for those, Quindy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Kodiak. That's a lot. Where's my palette? There's my palette. That is a lot. Oh, Quindy, take your allergy pill. I forgot to. Ugh. It's been so rainy here. My nose is like dying. Ugh. Phil did not see his shadow. Good. Excellent. So yay, early spring. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's been many years since we actually had early spring, so I'm in for it. I'm on board. Let's see. We need our gnome flesh. We need our rich leather. We need our magenta. Alrighty, we're gonna do a bit in the wings this time. Luke would like the skin tone because it's super saturated. Or perhaps not as saturated as he does, but it's more saturated. It's not bland. It's not bland. It's spicy. Yeah, I'm in for an early spring. I hated winter from the get-go this year, so... Let's see here. Let's remix our paint, and we can build some shadows and highlights today. Or at the very least, highlights. I tend to start with shadows on skin tones, although I'll probably put in some blush and stuff. What? Actual paint question? Those don't happen. Brownish black. I'm betting ivory black is going to be closest to walnut. Let me look. And cadmium, medium cadmium is usually a really bright red, so probably... Let me just double check that. Ivory... It's actually a carbon black. Interesting. It is a carbon black pigment. If I were you... Hold on. But it says it's a carbon black. It's just a warmer, and ours is cooler. So, I'm going to say for ivory black, you're going to want to, and I'm looking at the Winsor & Newton, like, actual article on this. Okay, so, here we go. Here's the different blacks. Let's talk about this. So, ivory black is a brown black of moderate tinting strength. And then you've got Mars Black, which is neutral. We don't have Mars Black in our line. However, there is Lamp Black down here. This is a blue black that's light, fast, permanent, and opaque. Okay, so Lamp Black is what Reaper uses in its pigments. But considering they're calling Lamp Black a blue black, and it's really not, it is a black, and I'm going to say this brown black is actually not a brown black. It's actually a black. It just tends to mix warmer. So I think what you'll have to do is mix, Cornico, if you want to be real, like, accurate about it. So the answer is probably to mix 1 drop of walnut to, like, 3 drops of lamp. Or try a 1-to-1. What you're looking for is when you add white to it, does it look bluish or does it look brownish, warmer? That's what they're talking about. It's not really a brown black. It's not really brown. Walnut is a brown. So, and brown liner is also a brown. So if I were you, I would probably do a mixture. Because what you're trying to do is get that blue tone out of the lamp black and shift it warmer. And this is how much of a stickler you want to be as far as palette goes. But, I mean, if you use walnut or brown liner, it's not going to give you a real true black. But, yeah, I would mix walnut and pure black, and you're specifically looking to shift the pure black warmer. I would say, like, a 2-to-1 pure black to walnut. Try that. 1-to-1 might work, but I don't know if that's enough brown to overwhelm that blue. You might get a purpley color. But yeah, when they're talking about blue black and brown black, they're really not saying that it is actual brown or is actual blue. They're talking about a black pigment that if you add white to it will shift slightly one way or the other. Yeah. And then what's the other? Medium cadmium? I just want to check and make sure that it's what I think it is, because sometimes it's medium, it's cadmium light. That's... Let's see. I want to see how this is described. So it's darker than cadmium red light, medium red, muted tint. Considered to be a true red. I would say, oh, modern day replacement for vermilion, huh? Okay, I'm going to say, I was thinking that maybe we would not go with clear red, but I'm thinking now we go with clear red. Let's see here. My phone is dark. There you go. Look at that. See? So it's going to be, you're going to be using like pretty close to pure pigments there. This is what I thought, but you can see that it's almost identical. I mean, Brilliant Red is a little bit tainted. Brilliant Red actually has, as I recall, has magenta and a touch of white in it. Critico. So you're losing your potential for high chroma pops. You're losing your potential for really saturated touches of red. Yeah, so this is the thing. When you're dealing with something that's asking for an equivalent for artist colors, you're almost always going with clears or pure pigments. And it just depends, right? If it's something like raw sienna, obviously not, because we have a mix for that, because we don't have that pigment, access to that pigment. But, so yeah, I would try a 1-to-1 walnut pure black, and then try the only reason we do a mix for the black is because we don't actually have that pigment, right, in MSP. So, right. But But medium cadmium is essentially a primary red. So like if you were using scale color, you would use primary red. If you use Reaper, you're using clear red. If you're using Chimera, you're going to use the red. If you're going to use Pro-Acryl, you're going to end up using their Purol red. All of these are primary reds. They're all using different pigments. None of them are cadmium, obviously. Most of them are going to be like Naphthol Crimson, except for the Purol, obviously. I did a whole PDF on this for the Patreon, actually. Different reds used in paint lines. Different red pigments. It's because it's interesting to see what different lines choose to use. Going to put a couple drops of rich leather into the skin tone mix. Then we're going to do a small drop of clear magenta. But yes, that is what I would use. Now that said, it'll be interesting when you get to mixing. Remember, you can make different colors here. Remember primarily that sometimes when you mix red with black, it can go one or two ways. It can go toward brown or toward purple. You're going to be neutralizing the blue tone of the lamp black. So you probably won't get a purple, but it still could give you an interesting color to work with. The other one is the yellow oxide, right? Yellow ochre. So you'll be able to mix good browns. You'll be able to mix a decent orange. Definitely going to have an analogous color palette, which is challenging, depending on the mini they choose. We don't know. Do we know the... See, lamp black would have been actually a cooler choice, literally, because the lamp black has a blue shift, so you could actually add white to it to get something that looked like a more bluer black. Then you would have your red and your yellow. You would have a primary triad. Oh, you pick your own minis. Okay. Well, you know what you can do with that, though, guys? I don't know if anybody has thought of this, but this is a perfect recipe for sepia. You could do a monochrome sepia mini. Or do duochrome and do sepia and black. I guess black does exist in. But you could totally, this could be the way that you do, you could absolutely do a sepia recipe with this. Like old photographs. I think is it the quarterly challenge? Or is it a different one? Is this the, it's one of the challenge leagues things. Mix up my skin tone. Then I'm going to test it against my my swatch here. I think I might need a little more magenta. Oh, it's different. Yeah. Oh, is it different? Okay. So what's the, then what is the Zorn challenge for? But yeah, you could either do a film noir with that color scheme, or you could do a sepia. And, you know, then you could just, like, paint a miniature and try to really limit your palette. Oh, I see. Community challenge. Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. I'm going to paint this right next door to this and see if I've got it. And it looks like I do. So, all right, we've nailed our paint color. And I'm going to get these wings, the interior part of these wings, settled in. But yeah, that's a very interesting color challenge. It's good. But yeah, just do a test on that black, Korniko. You're going to want to mix it, start with a 1-to-1, mix it up, add a bit of white to it, and make sure that it doesn't look at all cool or blue. You want it to shift warmer. Technically, it might be better to... I'm wondering if it's better to do brown liner, but I don't think so, actually. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to add yellow. Brown liner, for those wondering, is red, yellow, and black pigment, just straight up. So, whereas walnut is red oxide and black. So, walnut can shift a bit purple because of that red oxide with the black. You did not vote for that one. Yeah, it's one of the more difficult ones, I would think. You could go with the monochrome noir with the red highlights, the red pops of accent, or, yeah. I could see, and you said you're going to get a knoll. Going to use a knoll. Signum knoll on a riding board that looks suspiciously like Pumbaa. Great. Hakuna Matata. Your way through this competition. So what theme did you vote for, Korniko? Now I'm curious. Sorry, trying to straighten out my palette and my everything right here, guys, and then I can zoom in a bit. Oh, come on. Of course you voted for dragons. Why did I even ask? I want to see you do that Nolan Bohr and sepia tones like an Old West photograph, like it's a weird sort of Knoll cowboy. That's what I want. But yeah, limited palette is fun. I find it's fun. It's a fun challenge. I like doing it every once in a while. I do like to give myself a red, a yellow, and a blue, though. Like I said, I would probably have left the lamp black instead of the ivory. But they plainly want you to do like a browns and stuff. I haven't looked up Zorn to see what his paintings look like. Yeah, like Old West Knoll. That would be funny. It would be a cool way to do it that they're probably not expecting. Give the Knoll a cowboy hat. Oh yeah, Inara. Oh, Quindy, I have another medical crap appointment. I really am getting all of this stuff out of the way, like right here at the beginning of the year. But they finally scheduled my MRI, and it's going to be the 13th. That's a Tuesday. And of course, I have to do that in the morning. It's like fasting and starvation and no drinking and all that kind of crap. No water, not even water after midnight. But hopefully, that's the last of it. Getting all these tests done. And then we can ignore medical crap for the entire year. That's my wish. Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, the lack of a blue always bothers me too, but it still can be fun. Like, it still is a fun challenge. It makes you paint something like you wouldn't normally do it, and then you can always learn from that. Because you have no real cool tones, it means you're leaning heavily on lights and darks for your contrast. So keep that in mind. 1 second. Well, especially because they make you drink a whole bunch of crap beforehand, and then you're expecting to be in the MRI forever. Yeah, once the toddler's in school, maybe you could do it, Agent Marvel. Paint club's fun. It's fun to start a paint club. Alrighty, getting that in there. You can see how the gray background softens and takes some of the punch out of this color. Well, the way it looks wet, if I was going over white, that would be more like the color we got. But because I'm going over gray, it does influence the color. I see. Yeah. Yeah, whereas I'm trying to, it's my guts, so they want me to drink a whole bunch of crap to illuminate all of that. It's all different. I'll be in the loud tube. Loud tube again. Only done the loud tube once, so. So much medical crap. Alright, so I want to get at least one good layer on this, probably two. Oh no, Wendy. So you've been up way too long, is what you're saying, Quindy. So I prefer to make the membranes skin colored, whereas the back of the wings I like to keep brown. Kind of like bird of prey wings are different top to bottom. And you don't really have to be like super, I mean I could just paint over this entire thing with this flesh color. But I like being a little neat when I start. Because I'm just that anal. Oh, if you haven't been on my Discord, did you guys see Chibi Amy's daughter's white dragon that she was working on? I hopped on last night and I was really impressed. It's a really good white dragon. I love the fading color on the extremities. It's hard to do good white dragons. Oh, yeah, Quindy. Yeah. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate it, Kuro. For those who aren't on my Patreon or Discord, she has it. The shadows are all like a bluish color, and the limbs and the muzzle fade into like a dark indigo blue, purpley blue. It's really nice. It's very cool. It's a good way to put some variety in your dragons, so you don't just paint every scale the same way. Even a white dragon or a green dragon or a blue dragon can have variance in the color scheme. Alright, so we got a nice solid coat on there. That's excellent. Now we can look into, if I was going to do some shadows, I'd probably go more brown, but I think I'm just going to do some highlights and see what I can do. I'm going to take a big brush full of this existing mix, plop in another drop of gnome flesh, and then drop some pure white in there. Just essentially adding the gnome flesh to bring it a little bit back from the magenta color. Warm it up a little. Realized I've got a lot of crap still sitting on my table from yesterday, clearing it out real quick. There we go, much better. So we'll mix this up, see what we got. We want it to be a significantly different color, so we're getting that pretty well. I'm going to keep it there, and as I move toward my highlights, I'll do some more like color emphasis stuff as far as colored light. still debating how I want her to go. I probably will do some pretty blue shadows on her, we'll see. Just for fun. Alright, let's see what we got. Yeah, not too much, too puddly, and but otherwise it's actually fine if I just remove more from my brush. So I'm gonna blur this out real quick. Blur. And then when I go back in, I'm going to put very little paint on my brush and I'm going to remove a ton of it. So we want to have control, so we're going to load up our brush. We're going to dab it off on the side of the palette until we can make a very controlled brush stroke without any puddling. Yeah, there we go. Now I can still see brush strokes here, but that's not a terrible deal breaker because I can grab my base color and just put it over the edge to blend those in a little bit. So you can see that light coming in there. We don't, since the wings are folded, we don't have a lot of opportunity here, and since I'm probably going to end up putting some shadows over a lot of this, we don't want to spend a ton of time on it. We can see when we pop these in that they're going to be in a lot of shadow. So I will put a basic highlight on them, but after that I'm going to kind of back off until I see what I'm going to be doing with my shadows. When it gets down to little cutouts like this, I won't bother with the cross, like the cross stroke. I'll just do the straight up and down stroke, just like I will with tiny folds. Again, I know that I can grab my base coat color and I can kind of use that to fuzz out the edge of any brush strokes and disguise them. I'm going to line probably, but I'm going to highlight this sucker over here and these guys first. Again, I'm going to pick up a little bit of my base color and I'm just going to brush that along the edge here. Oh, cool, Carnico. I like some Kate Bush. That's my era. So with this, you've got to ask yourself if you're okay with a little bit of texture or if you really want smooth blends. I've decided I'm okay with a little bit of texture, so I'm just going to get these kind of blacked in. I know that I'm probably going to be doing glazes over these to cool down this area since it's in shadow, so it doesn't matter if I have a little bit of texture if I don't have smooth blends here because the glazing is going to help blend everything in. Plus, since these wings are kind of behind her and down, very few people are actually going to look at this part of the model. So putting a lot of effort into getting a perfect blend is wasted for the most part. And there's a little bit of a fold in the wing there. Hey there, Richard. How's it going? Doing some wing highlighting. And hey, Richard. None of which I've heard of. I'm a sheltered little Ann these days. Now I have heard of Faith and the Muse. That's a lie. It's me saying that I haven't heard of them. Is your favorite because it's gloomy and gothy? I can stand a certain amount of gloomy and gothy. Now I have to look it up. 1 second. I'll listen to it after the stream. Placebo, running up that hill cover. All right. I will give it a listen. Let's see if it's too gothy and gloomy for me. I'm going to do a little tiny stripe of highlight up here. Very goth, but not too gloomy. All right, I can get behind that. I can get behind that. Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. She was alternative rock in the 80s. It's probably, I'm trying to think of, what was the song from Love and Anger that got, or, she had a hit around that time, but was much more of an alternative rock. I think Running Up That Hill is, yeah. 1985. That one didn't even make the top 4 in this. Oh, Stranger Things used Running Up That Hill. I didn't realize that. Let's look at that. I didn't realize that Stranger Things had used that song. But it's an 80s song. Hey there, Jake. Alrighty. Okay. So this was back in the series, the season of Stranger Things that came out in 22. They used "Running Up That Hill," A Deal with God, in the first part of its new season, and then it actually hit number 1 on Spotify's global chart. That's really funny. Oh, funny, and Kate Bush really loves Stranger Things. So she actually released a statement after they used her song. Yes, exactly, Thormel. Yep. Yeah, that's great. It's even greater that Kate Bush is actually a fan of Stranger Things. That's pretty cool. Alrighty, so I'm making this a little lighter because it's crossing over the other wing. On the back, we'll do the opposite. The wing that's crossing over will get more light than this wing. I didn't watch it, but I just saw parts of it because David's a big fan. So, and of course, Reaper Miniatures also got product placement in that series. So when it started up, Ed made sure we knew that we were on TV. Just one more sign of the nerd apocalypse, that nerds are taking over mainstream media and popular culture. All right, I'm going to line this just to get an idea of where it's at. Just like I started lining Sophie, and we can also finish our lining on Sophie. We didn't line her little toes. And I want to use this color also to start highlighting Sophie, but I want to finish the lining first there. Yeah, I just don't make the time to watch TV. I just see things on the kind of on the borders when David's watching them. Or in the past when friends or somebody else was watching them. I just like to say, it's an 80s show. I lived through it. I don't need to watch it. David, tells me the plot and stuff. I like seeing what the writers are doing. All along, Moonlight, I've wanted to make her in very evening gown colors, because it seems to be an evening feel mini, and use kind of an indigo for shadows and stuff. Go for very blue shadows. Yeah, Thorma, have fun. And the skin is going to change colors as I bring it up, because I'm going to warm it up as I go up through the highlights. So I'm starting very pink. I've got a lot of magenta in this skin tone. I added it because I wanted an underlying rosiness to her skin. But I am going to golden, once we get up to highlights, they're going to be a lot more golden, so it's going to cancel out a lot of that red, pinky looking skin right now. But I like to do this every once in a while if I want a lively skin tone. I also do it on things that have been outside a lot. I think Luca was talking about that actually this week on his show for Reaper, where he was base coating that dwarven skin tone, and he talked about how you start with a reddish skin tone when it's a model that's been outside a lot, or you want that kind of weathered skin look. Yeah, I have an overall theme, but not specific colors. I tend to just kind of extrapolate. At this point, I really like to just start and then let the model grow organically. There are some times when I'll go in with I want to use X color on this. I want to use leaf bud green. I want to use, specific color. But more often, I find it's enjoyable just to start with something like this skin tone. And this choice of skin tone will absolutely feed into my choices, right? It's going to, having dialed up the saturation here and gone with more of a reddish tone, I'm probably going to lean strongly on yellow and blue for the rest of it, right? The thought of that gives you anxiety. You're a better planner than I am then. But that's my superpower, is my gut is kind of my superpower on some of this stuff. I'm a very strategic thinky in the moment kind of brain is my brain. So it's funny, I'm still trying to work out the best way my workflow for the day goes. Because if I pre-plan everything too much, I actually get anxiety. Because it's a lot of pressure then to get, once I put something on a to-do list, there's a lot of, subconscious pressure to get that thing done. And if I feel like I've got too much on my list, then it's anxiety day. And then I freak out and go off the rails. So, don't fix it if it isn't broken. It's just another, everybody's all different, right? So some people would really want to plan out everything. David's a weird kind of combo. Sometimes he'll plan out a mini, he'll sit down and he'll actually do a figure sketch like Derek Schubert sometimes does, where he'll put a black and white of the model and he'll just kind of use his iPad and Procreate to paint it in. But more often than not, he's pretty organic. But he also base coats more than me. I just do one area and then I move on. I'm actually doing a Patreon thing about this, this month, at my $10 tier, because last month I did Wapple versus Forster, light versus dark style, but I'm also going to talk about different ways to start your model. So this is one way, right? This is the Ann way, which is really weird. Yeah, and but it works for people sometimes, right? It depends on who you are. Right, but then Wapple does that shaded base coat over the whole thing, right? And then there's the people who just block in everything, like David. David would be one of these. And that he would block in everything, and then he would tune, shift, develop from there. But he wants to get his light-dark combo. He wants to get his shadows and highlights, because light is what's important to him. He wants all that in. So the color isn't even that important to him, so much as he wants to clearly see the light. So it's... Yeah, you don't need to though, Zachariah. That's the thing. This is all it's all valid. Every one of these approaches feeds into a different mindset, a different way of thinking. So learning all of them is cool. But I'm an oddball. I don't know anybody else. I had never met anybody when I started doing this who was also doing it. It was what Kyle would be, yeah. Yeah, but that's, you know what? The fact that he's your business manager, strategic brain is a really good one to have for that, because we can react to stuff in the moment, right? If something shifts, we can take advantage of it. If things are moving, we can kind of see what the next step is, even if it's 5 steps ahead, right? We can make a good judgment call a lot of the time based on incomplete information. And so in a fast-moving industry that's always developing these days, thanks to 3D printing and all the rest of that, it's really good to have somebody with this kind of brain working with you. Yeah, see, Courtney, and actually I'm going to talk about that in this PDF. I'm going to talk about the downsides of my style of starting, right? Are you, is it flip-flopping? You used to be the one who had to paint his minis, and now he's got to be the one to paint your minis. Right. Yep. And that's part of it, right? Yeah, I won't go into everything on stream, obviously, since I want to do it for the Patreon. But yes, all of these are things I'm going to be talking about. Pros and cons. Pros and cons of starting, because there's many different ways to start a figure. All of them are good, or all of them can be bad depending on your mindset, right? So yeah. But I do find these days, possibly because I've started to shift back, I'm shifting a lot more toward a David mindset on this one, Moonlight, where David maybe uses a total of 20 colors, maybe, for everything he paints. Doesn't matter. He's mixing everything. So he wants primaries. He wants saturated primaries, and then he's just going to mix to get where he wants to be, right? And when I did Master Series, I was very much I want a whole bottle of this because I don't want to have to mix it all the time. And there are still colors I do that with, like the Rich Leather, which is our raw sienna equivalent. If it's a color that's a pain to mix, like these guys, and a match for an artist color that's a utility color, like Burnt Umber and raw sienna, then I'm going to definitely keep a bottle close, right? But more and more, I'm heading toward a yellow is yellow mindset. Red is red, yellow is yellow, green is green, although green is a little wonky that way, but blue is blue. It's like, it's to the point where I can where I just reach for a yellow, right? And then I just make it work. So when I'm looking at it, yeah. Yeah. Yes. But you don't want to mix red and white. Yeah. That makes sense. You're just tuning. You like to tune. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a normal process. Part of my process, Agent Marvel, is that I'll go at the end, and if something's not working, I'll tune it a little bit. Yeah. No, mixing is definitely a skill set that will help you down the road, Kodiak. It only brings good. Even if you later decide not to mix so much because you've kind of decided you like to go the other way instead, the knowledge of color and pigment interaction that you will have learned from your mixing is going to stand you in good stead no matter what paint line you reach for. Because if you mix enough, you start being able to look at a bottle of paint from anybody in the industry and understand what it's made of. And once you have that, no, blorf. Once you have that knowledge, you can paint with anything. It doesn't matter. Then the only thing that matters is like the consistency, right? The body of the paint. Is it a high coverage paint? Is it a translucent paint? Then that's the only thing you have to worry about once you understand color. But yeah, so these days it's very rare for me to do something like, say, I want to start with Candlelight Yellow. It's more like, I want this to be yellow. I wonder how I'm going to get there, right? And the yellow that I choose will be based on what exactly I want to do with it, more than the color itself. Yeah, and you can get some really cool colors just by playing around with mixing. So, very little paint on the brush. I'm using liner here because I want thin lines. You see how thin those are? Except for my little bit of blorfiness up there. And I've still got my skin tone here, so I can take it and adjust, right? But yeah, so these days I really like... it's more likely if I'm going to start, like, if I really want to use a given color, a specific color, then I'll start with that color and work everything around it. Whereas if I'm like, I want this model to be warm on the top and cooler in the shadows, then I kind of know I'm going to use an indigo or a blue at some point. I knew with this model that I wanted a sort of like a cool blue, like a purpley blue kind of gown. Probably softer, maybe muted, but I don't know. It could be actually pretty punchy in the end. And I knew that I was probably going to take that color or something close to it and use it to shade a lot of stuff. But I haven't chosen that color. Like, it may be something I mix. I may just reach for rich indigo and modify it a little bit. But I haven't decided yet. I just know that something akin to that color is what I want. And here, I'm blurfing here and there here, but I'm mostly blurfing over the top of stuff I haven't painted, so it's fine. This is the kind of thing where if you want to build up your lining skills or your brush control skills so that you can paint fine detail, this is the kind of lining to like practice. The real thin lines, real precise. And you can see even I mess up on them, but it's still really good practice for doing really fine detail. And I can always take my base coat and kind of thin those lines down if I have to go in. See, now I wonder if Kate Bush plays Dungeons and Dragons, guys. Back to the Stranger Things and the running up that hill reference. And you can always just go in little sections. When you're doing this kind of fine work, you don't have to do just one complete stroke. I bet you could, like, I'd have to see if she does Twitter or whatever, but I bet you could ask on a social media platform. She's not so famous that, like, she wouldn't maybe respond if she was interested in the topic. I get that feeling. But you never know. And then these, like, it gets so little. Eek. So I'm totally blorfing onto the strut section, so that I'm able to preserve the tiny bit of skin color that I've got there. Because these get so narrow, that's why I'm doing such fine lines. So I'm pressing against, you can see I'm kind of pressing against this strut as I'm painting. I have an angled brush and I'm going this way. So if my brush skips, it's going to skip over the unpainted part. Well, it's kind of sunny out right now here, finally. I wonder if... Oh, I see dark clouds off there, though. We've been having the weirdest weather. It reminds me of when I was in Scotland and Ireland, actually, Kuro. It's like Scottish and Irish spring, where it's like sunny, and then it's rainy. And it's sunny, and it's rainy. And it's sunny, and it's rainy. That's what we've been having. Let's see. Oh, it's supposed to sprinkle. Oh, but it's supposed to be sunny most of the day. That's good. It just rained. It rained on David during his walk with Kiki this morning. Apparently, there's a meme of Kate Bush dressed as all the D&D classes. That must have come up after Stranger Things. That's pretty awesome. That implies to me that maybe she played D&D at one point or another. Oh, we're supposed to have another 3 days of rain. This is insane. Very rainy. Anybody who, like, in this area, like, at the start of the winter, everybody was saying, it's such a dry winter, where's the rain? And now they're all regretting it. So for those who have been paying attention to my Patreon and the fact that we're about to start a new paint-along, featuring one of Moonlight Mini's models. I've been having a little bit of a chat. I was asking the chat channel that's dedicated to the paint along, which I think is Night Chat, if people have ideas, and Ruben has been saying that he wants me to paint her like the Tiefling from Baldur's Gate. So with a really dark red skin tone. Oh, is it made up from her stage and video outfits? Oh, it just released for you on Moonlight Minis. Good, good, good. On my mini factory. Excellent. Bonus model this month. Awesome, I'll make a post. Yeah. I've been looking at screenshots of that because I haven't allowed myself to play Baldur's Gate yet because I know it will eat my life. I'm waiting. I think I won't be able to allow myself to actually play it until I'm done with this book. Until I'm done with Rite of Winter. I cannot allow myself to play it until I'm done with at least one book this year. Because I can tell that the story is great and the characters are cool and it's a huge game that will take forever and it will eat my life. So I'm going to be conservative and not start playing it. No Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, you too. Yeah, same. Alright, yep. Alright, solidarity, everybody. No Baldur's Gate 3 for us until we actually make progress on something else. Yeah. Maybe this summer, because I usually let my foot off the gas pedal. During summer, I give myself a break to kind of rejuvenate my brain and not be under so much pressure. Pressure is good for me in a very limited time frame, but pressure over the long run is not good for me. Little tiny strut things. So, oh, Kiki liked my tiny little voice there. She came in. Hi, Keeks. Or she came in and stuck her head in, then she ran, then she left. Maybe she's like, nope. Great pile of stream. Oh, no games. No games until you finish your army, Sakuro. That's fair. I finished novel, you guys finish army. But yeah, usually I let myself have just fun time during the summer. A lot of just fun time. Which isn't to say I don't work on the book, but I work on it very intermittently and I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. Oh, hi, Keeks. Hi, are you just here to poke your head in? Daddy did not dry you off this morning. You're very damp. You're very damp. He ran, he didn't call me to come out and help dry you off. And now you're a damp puppa. Oh, puppa, lack-a-day. So damp. She doesn't want to come up on my lap, I can tell. She's just like being Kiki in heat, hormonal girl who just wants to be clingy. Hi, clingy Keekers. Hi, clingy Keekers. Look at you. Look at you. Yeah, but Mama still has to, she's still got about 20 minutes on her stream. Mama still got 20 minutes. Yeah, do you want to come up and say hi after all? Do you want to come up? No? No, I just want scritches, she says. I just want scritches. Snoring. That's so funny, Kodiak. Yeah, I got it, Agent Marvel. Yes, the toddler eats your life until it's no longer a toddler. And then you can breathe a sigh of relief when they finally go off to school, right? Are you going to do preschool? Oh, yes. Good girl. Yeah. She's growing. She's growing up, Kodiak. 6 months of Army, 6 months of games, yeah. 600 hours of Fallout 4, oh my god. Start off homeschooling. Oh, that's cool. Sometimes that can be a blessing. I had a family who had one of my puppies who did homeschool in Texas, and Texas is really friendly for homeschooling apparently. But they were having some behavior problems with her because she thought the kids were her playmates, and she was also overprotective of their kids. And so I suggested, since they homeschooled, I'm like, why don't you do a dog training unit in your homeschooling and teach the kids how to work with the dog, right? And they just thought that was the most brilliant idea ever, and they did it, and the behavior problems just evaporated. Because once the kids were in a situation to understand how to interact with the dog in, a consistent way that the dog understood, everything just worked. Yeah, that's good. Another homeschool, actually the product of homeschooling, there was a kid who worked for us for a while in the paint department. He was honestly my favorite employee of all time. But his family, in the course of their homeschooling, had introduced units on entrepreneurship and running a business. So eventually, he quit Reaper to start a game store with his brother. So yeah, there's definitely some cool things, and I sometimes wish that real actual schools would take a cue from some of this stuff and put more interesting things like that into so it's you don't have to just do you should still do the fundamental stuff, right? But you can do more than that, right? You can have more interesting, if you're going to talk about economics or money or math, you can also talk about, if you were, let's run a tiny business, right? It was really cool. That's where I feel like the real potential of homeschooling is. It's the ability to introduce more stuff that's actual how to deal with the real world kind of stuff, right? I'm just shading the underside. While I do lining, I also do bulk shading, so I'm just going to put in some darker groundwork on the underside of this book. Yeah, Humblebug. That's another one, right? Oh, bad cold, no energy. All right, good. Yeah, you can vicariously feed off of my painting Humblebug. That's cool. Thumbs up. I'm in for that. Right, exactly. Yep. I remember very little about any of my high school classes, but one of the only things I do remember is that in our what was it? Was one of our math classes or social science? I don't remember. I think we were doing an economics unit, but the class bought stock. They actually made a tiny little stock trading account for us, and the class chose what stocks to buy, and it taught us about the stock market, right? It was actually a really cool and innovative little unit, and it was fun and different, and it taught us about something that existed that might, in the future be useful to us, right? So it was actually, but that seems like it's more rare these days. Oh, I see. Angel Marble. Yeah. Yeah, and help them with the areas they struggle with. Yep. Yeah, it's cool. And the more support you have locally, the better you can get around the whole, your kid also gets to like play and interact with other kids, right? Oh, that's cool. That's cool, Humblebug, yay. All right, I see a little bit of a bit of flash here, so I missed it when I went over the model. So I'm gonna kind of come at it with the knife from underneath and see if I can take that out. Looks like it was kind of maybe a vent right here. I've got a little bit of, there we go. Had a little bit of it on the leg. There we go. Got it out of there. Sweet. But yeah, it's cool. As somebody who like learned more from like self-study than a lot of my college education, I'm like I respect people who put the effort to really homeschool well and give their kids a good foundation. It's a lot of work. Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah, my mom wanted to know why I think it was my mom. I don't remember if it was mom or if it was another relative that they were like, well, why won't you go into English? Because, I was always a writer and a reader. And I'm like, I don't want to teach it. Because that was it, right? If you want more options on how to use what you get out of college. I see exactly what you're saying. There we go. So yeah, just shading and lining around the leg here, but also putting in that dark shadow. That way when I paint the underside of this book, it's going to automatically, be more dark because I'm putting it over a darker color than what's around it. Hey, Thormel, you're back. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's not have opinions on that one. I'll be with Quindy on that one. Alrighty, a little bit. I've got that lining around the hand there, but I feel like it could go a little darker. That's good, that's good. The foot stands out now. I will line the toes, but not right now. I want to line around the ears. Hugging the reptiles. So I always forget the ears, so I'm going to line around them. And I'll line up, kind of up this the strand of hair that the ear is coming out behind, because there's usually a little bit more of, where the ear is coming out, there'll be a little bit more of a separation between the locks of hair there, so putting a shadow there works. It'll just remind me to do that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to get back to the paint along. It'll be interesting to paint that Genasi, like the Tiefling, because when you start with a skin tone with that strong of a color, it does limit where you go from there. So it'll be interesting to see what we can do and still have a good color scheme, a harmonious color scheme. In the game, when I looked at her various outfits, obvious that they're dealing with that problem by putting her in very much neutrals. But I'd like to do a little bit more color, so we'll see. I might end up putting a lot of the color into the skin instead of, just gonna have a shade under here real quick. So this is like more underpainting. If you were gonna do a sketch style with black and white, you'd kind of do that kind of thing where you were going around and kind of blocking in some areas of shadow and such. One thing I need to do, I wonder if I still have that, if it still is good. If you have a pen light or something that's small, and I think I do from ReaperCon a while ago, let me see if it still works. At ReaperCon they gave out little lights. So there's a little light with a little thingy, and if I want to kind of see, yeah, it's a little flickery, I probably need a new battery, but if I want to catch like really force shadows, I can do something like this, and I could set this up essentially balanced and put it, stick it down with some sticky tack and put her here on my platform and take some pictures to remind me of where the light is falling, where the shadow is falling, right? So that I can paint appropriately when I get there. So a small light like this. Yeah, come on now, guys. Let's not get gross. This is a family-friendly channel. But yeah, so that's something you can consider. And that one has a very long light, right? It's got kind of a bar. You can easily deal with that by just putting some tape or sticky tack or something over part of it so you get a more focused light. I'll probably do that later when I'm thinking about this model and what I want to do. And I want to make some notes on where the shadows are really strong. But a lot of people forget to do this. They forget to, if they want to do a lighting effect, they forget to set up their model, shine that light on it exactly the way they want, and oh yeah, no, don't say his name anymore because, you know, it summons him. There we go. And I want to get her eyes blacked in, also the line of her mouth, which is something we do. And then we'll put a little bit of highlight onto her skin tone. And I'm gonna fill in the eye. She's a nice large eye, so that's great. And the other eye is covered by the hair, so we don't even have to worry about it, which is great. There's just a little corner of it. We can just hit it a little bit, but we're fine. She definitely needs some eyebrows, so we'll do that, but that's much later. And then I like to line the mouth because it's easiest to do at this stage when you can touch it up and you're not wrecking anything else. Got a little bit blurfy there, so I'm going to grab some of my base and go over the top. It also helps you, the line of the mouth helps you to give her a little smile if you want one. Like that's the place where you're going to introduce that upturned lip. At this scale, it's super hard to do that in the sculpt without over accentuating it because it's so small. But you can easily give the model a slight smile if you're careful when you're doing the lip here. Just a little bit of an upturn to the mouth will give her a smile. And the other thing you can do if you are planning to do a pretty deep lip color is you can also line around the bottom lip. I'm not going to do that this time. I think I'll save it for once I figure out what lip color I want for her. Yeah, it's not easy, but again, if you spend time doing this, it's spending time doing this that gives you the skills to do that. These are the same thing, the same technique. It's just the thin lining, just practicing the thin lining is going to give you the skills because you're using the same consistency of paint, the same kind of brush stroke to line that mouth. It takes time to build up the fine motor for that, but it's not as long as you think. Not if you do a fair amount of it. I always tell the story of how I totally tortured John Bono when he was my painting department, when I had him helping me paint stuff for online ads stuff or ad catalog stuff, and we had to paint it really fast. But I also was trying to like increase his skills, and so I essentially gave him 3 calves and told him to line them. Which is pretty much like torture. It's pretty much torment because they're all panels, right? They're vehicles with tons of panel lines. So after lining 3 calves, he was good enough to line pretty much anything else on the planet. So it isn't as much, you don't have to torment yourself like that, but practicing lining on something like this, a few minis like this, will really increase your brush control. It'll increase it faster than almost anything else will. Yeah, that happens. I mean, and to be fair, at 28 millimeter, you want the upper lip to be nothing but shadow anyway. We'll go a little longer. And like I said, you don't have to, you can do it in sections, and when you're only working against one painted area, then you can, blorf a little bit or be a little rough on the other side of it. Yeah, the upper lip is in shadow always. Think about it. This point under the nose is in the light. But then look at the shape of the mouth, right? You've got that upper part under the nose, but then what does the upper lip do? It cuts in, right? Away from the light. Then the lower lip sticks out and catches the light. So you always are doing your upper lip in shadow. I don't know if I have a good example. I was going to grab a bigger example. Do I have a bigger example? You can put color on it, but it's always darker color. So when you get to bigger models, you can see how I did the line of the mouth, but I also did that upper lip. It's quite dark. Like, it's much darker than the lower lip is. Because it's always going to be in shadow. It's always cutting under into the mouth, right? And so it's always going to be dark. As you get larger in models, you don't just put a dark shadow there, you start putting color there, right? But it's still darker. It's always darker. The only difference would be if you have a light that's really full, like straight on at the face where all the shadows are flooded. But it's rare to have light that's like that on a model. Because it's a bigger model. But at 28, it's only the lining. That's the difference there. This is the difference. Right, you have enough of a lip sculpted here to have some color. But you don't here, you've just got the line. Yeah, so just take some of that pressure off yourself. Only worry about the lower lip on 28s. When you do your line to the mouth, you almost inevitably will be painting that upper lip anyway. Because it's, it's tiny. And it's barely there. Yeah, so don't worry about the upper lip at all. Not at 28. 54, 72, bust scale, sure. So I did determine that there is a model in Luca's Instagram that I could probably paint like he did. That I own. If I felt like doing that. So maybe we'll do that. On my own stream, that would be. Because it's not a Reaper model. And then we'll see if we really need crippling depression and imposter syndrome to paint like Luca. His words, not mine. It's one he's got several stages. Hold on. I'll show you. Where's my Insta? Here's my Insta. Search. There's Luca. Let's see what we got. None of the GW stuff, that's for sure. None of the not safe for work either. Her. It's very Luca. The nice thing is he's got several video shots of her where he's holding her. And he also has a finished shot of her in here. I guess that's one of the closest to finished. Oh, there it is. There's the finished shot. So he's got a good quality finished shot that I can pull from. Yes, the chicken lady. But the nice thing is, if I go back far enough, he's actually got a base coat where he's using see the colored base coat, guys? So there is a warmer white and a cooler blue shadow. So he's doing underpainting for this, which is cool. So I have that reference, plus I've got the finished model reference. That's really all I need. So that's kind of why I was looking at that one, because it really gives me a good basis for it, for copying that. The other one I was looking at, but there's really only one picture of it, and I wasn't as much into it, was this one, which is more recent, I think. I think maybe there's a couple pictures of her on the Insta from him. But yeah, it's an extra bonus to see his underpainting on the chicken lady. Now I'm just going to call her that. Because it gives me information about how he started it, right? Whereas a lot of the Reaper stuff he does, he's starting with a black base coat, right? I have to thicken this a little bit, or thin my base a little. Oh, no, not on this stream, because it's not a Reaper model, Kodiak. I can't do it on this stream. If I was going to do it, I have to do it on my stream. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want... That's the thing, though. Remember what I told you guys about this exercise. You don't actually want to paint it exactly the way that person painted it, as far as their process, right? Having a little bit of extra information, like the base coat they put on, like I just showed you, That's useful. But I don't want to actually paint it along with him. It's not a paint along. That's not the point. The point is you look at it and you reverse engineer using your skills. You try to paint it like they did so that the end product looks as close to what they did as you can get. You learn an awful lot that way. So yeah, so I would not actually be looking to do VODs at all. I would, if I might be able to do it to see his starting process, but at the same time, I wouldn't, after that, I wouldn't do it. I would be doing it my way to get to his way. That's what makes it a good exercise. Oh yeah, for starting, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, because the point of the exercise is to use your painting to try to paint something like one of your idols. Or in Luca's case, like one of your foremost bad examples. Yeah, right, I wouldn't be able to sit through 80 hours of VODs. As it was, I sat through like a couple hours of VODs on Wapple's channel before I wrote the Wapple article last time, the Dark Style, Light Style article. I can do that every once in a while for the Patreon, but yeah, 80 hours of VODs is too much. If you look on his putty. Oh, okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, I figured he had a putty and paint. All right, cool. Thanks for the tip. Yeah, because the problem with David already painting that one is just that I usually don't like to paint the same thing he paints. There's some part of me, like, I do have a competitive urge down in me, but I don't necessarily enjoy my competitive urge. And part of me is just like, I wouldn't probably paint it of my own volition because he's already done a job on it. But if I was copying Luca, it would let me actually paint that model, which I do like. I do really like it. And it would take the pressure off of the color scheme. I would be just trying to paint it like Luca did, only in Anne style. Which would be fun. Oh, there's the Barky Dog. Barky Dog heard some axe murderers coming for us. Do you hear some axe murderers, Bob? No. No axe murderers. We're fine. Good girl. Yeah, good girl. We're fine. Yeah, I know it's time for us to go on your walk. It's probably your last walk. Since she's in heat. She's almost on house arrest. Almost house arrest, Kiki. I don't mind going a little late. I'm going to be missing so much time next week. So remember that I've got stuff next week, guys. I won't be on the 7th or the 8th, which I think is Wednesday and Thursday. Doctor stuff to do. Hanging around the hospital a lot. Yay, walk. Good for you, Kodiak. Especially because the weather where you are is not great. But yeah, choices that Luca makes with highlighting, shading, color choices are different from my style. So that's why doing one of his models would be a really good exercise for me. He's also generally much more saturated, where I tend to go much more naturalistic. He's got a much more high fantasy art style than I do. Fair. That's right, you like the cold, don't you? You really don't like the heat. And I'm the opposite. So again, kind of pressing up against the side that's not painted here to keep my brush under control and keep it from zigzagging away, at least as much as I can. Got a little bit of a blurf there. Is that what he does? I hate it. Rebase coat. It depends. It depends where you are, Kara. Like, there's a lot of techniques. If you just started, I did a whole series on YouTube about the fundamentals of mini painting. And I talk about washes, and I talk about like layering and wet blending and all sorts of like the basic techniques. On 28s, I often I do lining and then I do a little bit of shading. It depends, but my style is a lot less dark than a lot of people's. So like examples of my work that's a little closer to done. You know, we did this guy. We're doing Mousy and Ghost Mousy. So my shading isn't as dark as a lot of people's, but I do line, and I do try to alternate light and dark a lot. So there's a lot of different tactics for shading, but I usually start with kind of a darker bit, like not a dark base coat, but like a mid-dark. I line, I highlight. If I need extra shading, I go back in and do it. But that's just one process. Like there's a lot of different ways to do it. A lot of people, when they start with washes. I don't like them because they kind of dirty up the mini, but I mean, a lot of people really like them because it's a simple way to get shadows down. So yeah, I mean, head over youtube.com/@paintingbig is my moniker over there. And fundamentals of miniature painting are my most viewed things. There's a playlist pretty much from start to finish. And it'll take you over a lot of different techniques if you're interested. They're fairly short videos. They're everywhere from 8 minutes up to like 20, depending on how much time I needed to actually show the technique. So yeah, there's Quindy with the thing. The thing. Yeah, you like washes. Richard does a lot of army painting, and so he really enjoys the washes because it's really, I mean, it's a really good tool. So it depends on like what your goal is as a mini painter. If you're trying to get like an army done to play, then you want to go for quicker techniques probably. Unless you're not pressed for time, in which case you can pick as long as you want on any model. But like if you're trying to like, if you want to paint like because you're like, I want to get good, I want to be able to paint, you know, well enough that I'm really proud of it, or that my friends will be impressed, or that I can enter competitions or whatever, then that's different, right? Then maybe you start with washes, but then you learn the other stuff too. And then there's also just different ways to prime it that will help you with shading, like zenith priming, which is when you do it black. This guy's partially painted, but you prime it black and then you spray white from above, and that kind of shows you where your shadows are going to be, right? And then you can paint along kind of with that. And also putting colors over the black primer is going to make them look darker than over the white. So all those things are useful. I think I talk about all of them on the YouTube in detail. So, and of course the YouTube's free, so it's a nice tool. Yeah. That's the thing with washes. You have to wait for them to dry, and I don't have a lot of patience. So I tend to just use techniques that don't take quite as long. But that's me. But yeah, I'm more likely to start with kind of a mid-dark and then work up from there and then add extra shading where necessary. Behold the spam, yep. But yeah, so it's really like learning all of it doesn't do anything bad for you, Akara. Like if you learn all the techniques, then as you get to paint more, you just like, you slowly learn which ones you like the best, and then that becomes part of your style. And you'll learn which ones work best for you. And that's the most important thing. I mean, you can have the best mini painter in the world standing there giving you instruction, but if the thing that they're trying to teach you doesn't really work for you, then it's just not going to stick. So the best is to just try a whole bunch of different things. Learn everything you can and then work with the stuff, and you'll get a feel for what you like. Yeah, she's definitely looking like an alien child because she has no eyebrows. So I'm just bringing in some highlights. Just to make, and then I'm keeping that initial layer of skin tone as more of the shadow, although as I mentioned, I'll be bringing in some blush probably there. I'll be bringing in extra shadows under the brow ridge, the nose, the chin, things like that. So I'm the kind of person who starts with kind of a mid that's kind of toward the dark side, and then I work both ways. I do highlights and shadows from there. And I'll wrap this up real quick, guys, since I'm over time at this point. But I wanted to get a little bit of this highlight on there just to get a feel for it. And just putting in those highlights makes the features start to stand out more. I have very little paint on my brush, so it's controllable. You can see that the face is starting to come to life there once I've added those highlights. Just that little bit will bring out features. That's about right. But yeah, washes take a while to dry. Layering is a lot faster because you're using thinner paint and not nearly as much of it, or not as necessarily. It's actually, layering is like painting with a wash, but you don't put it everywhere. You're using very small amounts. All right, so we can see how that is bringing the skin tone up. So I'll definitely still need some shadows, some additional shadows, but that's a good start. That's a good start. All right, people. I think we will hold it there. I'm going to eventually put these on. Like I said, we'll have a lot of shading to do as well. But yeah, so we're coming along. She's progressing, right? She's progressing. So Monday, we will be working on... Actually, it is Vamp Barb, isn't it? So we'll be doing this guy's base. I'll be using green stuff to show how to like sculpt just big basic flagstones like this and put a little bit of texture onto them. And then we'll finish that for a bit, set him aside for a while, and then we come back, we can paint him and then move on to whatever model I'm going to do next, which I think is Bee Folk. We decided it was going to be our little bee. We do a 6 model rotation here. Akara. So every time I finish one, we put another one in. So there's this little bee folk warrior, little bumblebee. He's so cute. So yeah, so once we finish the base on Vamp Barb, we will do the bee. So that'll be cute. All right. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Oh, it's getting overcast. I better take Kiki for a walk super quick before it starts to rain again. Thank you, everybody, for your company all this week. I hope we all had a good time. I had a great time hanging out with you. Yay, the weekend. Do weekend hands. Weekend hands. No, not Blue Bee. That's been done, Richard. That's been done. But yeah. All right, guys. Have a good one, and I will talk to you later. Quindy, thank you, as always, for being our awesome mod. And yeah, I'll see you guys Monday. Or actually, I will be doing my stream tomorrow on my own channel, so twitch.tv/paintingbig. That'll be at 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time. All right. That's it. Seriously, that's it now. Bye-bye.